This is Salman Rushdie's newest book. It's a stunning jacket that looks really like the knife that stabbed him, an attack that lasts 27 seconds. Um, it is, as he writes, um, as long as it takes a religious person to say the Lord's Prayer. Rushdie himself says that it would take him 27 seconds to read his favorite sonnet, Shakespeare's sonnet on. It is possibly one of the bravest books that Rushdie has ever written. It was a public, horrific attack, and in a twist worthy only of Rushdie, his attacker, who Rushdie refers through at the book through the A, who'd been taking boxing lessons, hadn't read Satanic Verses. Rushdie famously said Satanic Verses is his least political book, but it's the one that has grabbed the attention worldwide. In this age of instant information, and especially at a time when it was an attempt on the life of a man who had lived with the fear of the fatwa line hanging over him for 33 and a half years, there was very little we knew. There was very little we didn't know about this attack. Yes, Rushdie turns this much written about attempt to murder into something completely new, tender, defiant, life-altering, brilliant, and sort of take on freedom of expression and of words that Rushdie really has been known for. Knife is about the aftermath of the attack. Meditations after an attempted murder is what Rushdie writes about. It's about how he loses control of his body, his cancer scare, his loss of vision. Being blind is one of his biggest fears. Injury on his left hand, and his almost death. But this book of life after is his most life-affirming. It's also very much a book about it's an unabashed love story. Rushdie is in love. This is his fifth time it's his fifth marriage, and Rushdie is almost deliriously happy in the book. He talks about that. He quotes Henry de Montholon, a French writer who famously said, "Happiness writes in white ink on white paper." Essentially, it's very difficult to capture. And Rachel Eliza Griffiths, 46 years to his 76, is his newest muse and his love. She's a poet. It is her photograph, the one with Rushdie looking defiantly out, like almost rock star-like, or like The Godfather, as one paper had labelled him sitting with Martin Amis, Ian McKellen and him, and they labelled it The Godfathers. It looks very much like that. That's the image that we really know the new Rushdie from. This book chronicles his fight back of survival, of family, and of course of his staggering courage of a man who has, as he's written, literature is home. It's also very much a book that talks about his relationship with his possibly most infamous or famous, it depends on which side you look at the coin, work which has actually defined him. It's a book that very few people, either you've read it or and the people who, and you have an opinion, or the people who haven't read it have a possibly bigger opinion. And it is this book that he sort of tries to break the metaphor from it. And I'm going to read out what he says. Art is not a luxury. It stands at the essence of our humanity and asks for no special protection except the right to exist. It accepts argument, criticism, even rejection. It does not accept violence. This is a conversation that Rushdie keeps having over and over again. It's at the heart of all his work, and this comes at the end of a chapter where he confronts his attacker, who he refers to as the A. The book is also very much sort of a defiant attempt at trying to go beyond the work that has chosen to, in some ways, be, you know, go beyond what he believes is what he's going to be remembered as, the man who was knifed. This is not Rushdie's first memoir. In Joseph Anton, which came out in 2012, he writes about living in the shadow of the fatwa. He writes about the safe houses, the high life of the hunted. Joseph Anton is written in the third person, and it offers insight into his life, his relationship with his father, the drinking, the drunkenness fueled rage. But it offers it at a distance. I think the only time you come really close to knowing what Rushdie is, or getting into his world or into his head or into his shoes in a way, is when he talks about the time when his father gets very drunk before he's going off to boarding school and whispers words that he'd never heard before, drunk out of his mind. And this sort of defines Rushdie's relationship with his father, and he never goes back. In The Knife, you get a side of Rushdie which is more intimate. It really possibly is it is a view into his most intimate world. It's a view of his friends, it's a view of his family, it's a view of his of the relationship he has with his two sons. It is also a relationship. It is also a view into the world of his relationship, possibly the most enduring relationship he has with his sister, Samin. Samin, as he says, was born almost a year after he was, over a year after he was, and has remained his playmate, his friend, his constant presence in his life. Knife is urgent, it's heartbreaking, it's witty, and it's unforgettable. It's really vintage Rushdie. He lets you into his world. It's a world that we so far only see from the outside. You have only snatches of what Rushdie is through the lens of the media. And for this time, Rushdie lets you in and lets you see him. And I would like to end with what he says about words, really. So this is what Rushdie says. Eliza is filming Rushdie at his worst, when he hadn't seen his face, when nobody actually allows him to see his face, and she's recording this for posterity. Sort of another thing. So that possibly will it be a documentary? I think it does seem that it will. And he writes this. He says, the most upsetting thing about the attack is that it turned me once again into somebody I had tried very hard not to be. For more than 30 years, I have refused to be defined by the fatwa and insisted on being seen as an author of my books, 5 before the fatwa and 16 after. I just about managed it. When the last few books were published, people finally stopped asking me about the attacks on the satanic verses and its author. And now here I am, dragged back into that unwanted subject. I think now I'll never be able to escape it. No matter what I've already written or may now write, I'll always be the guy who got knifed. The knife defines me. I'll fight a battle against it, but I suspect I will lose. This, I think, is the book Knife ensures that Rushdie will never be this guy who either loses or will be remembered for only being attacked or satanic verses. It ensures, as Midnight's Children did, that Rushdie will remain a writer, forcing us to always be his reader. He will be alive, he will be unforgettable, he will be incredibly witty, he will be everlasting.